Dan, tell us about your business and what's limiting its growth right now.
Chapters is a publishing company, and we focus on the modern author. And so our growth has been quite tremendous the last couple of years, but we want to be as ubiquitous as LinkedIn. And so we are trying to get people to move from a perceived problem to an actual problem. It's confusing and takes time to share your IP, be it a book or on Substack. So we'd like to be more of an ambassador and more of a cheerleader and offer some freedom the way we built our platform, that your wisdom matters, your life experience matters, and the walls, the invisible walls that keep you from sharing your wisdom, we want to bring those down. So we've done a good job. We've taken on well over 100 authors, and we want to get to thousands and hundreds of thousands. So one is just market awareness and just working out our messaging with would-be customers.
So marketing awareness, and what was the other thing?
I would say more just branding or the value proposition to make it move from a nice to have, or I would consider that, to yes, I need to inventory and capture my intellectual property, my thoughts and wisdom. I am worthy enough to write a book. I'm worthy enough to be a contributor to thought leadership.
You mentioned it's confusing and it takes time to share IP. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Yeah, so no matter the age or the background or the industry, all of us, many of us that think we have some wisdom or some life experience that we would like to share with the world or their industry. Like, I want to be on a podcast, or I want to write a book, or I want to start a Substack. But there's an intimidation layer that sits in front. You know, the psychology is very deep. Am I worthy? What we see is that all of these systems are very intimidating. So Chapters has built a platform to make it less intimidating. So that's what I mean by intimidating. We want to be the place where people have moved on from traditional publishing or hybrid publishing, and where they can say, hey, it's not intimidating. It's not going to cost me $40,000 to write a book or write my manuscript. I can leverage modern technology and share my knowledge and IP, my intellectual property, with the rest of the world. I can monetize it. So if I'm at a cocktail party, Chapters is publishing. We can write your book, but we actually do much more than that.
We'll do a deep dive on the Chapters platform. But before we do, tell me about your goals, business goals right now. So where are you right now, or like revenue in 2025, and where you're trying to get to in, say, 2028?
Yeah, revenue 2025 ending Q4 was around $500,000 US.
Okay.
And we're on track to double that for this year.
Okay.
And so obviously that would be the trajectory for an early stage, you know, for the next year or two, but we want to exponentially grow. We have several products that will be able to do that, but really just one reoccurring revenue product, but we do have some service revenue.
How big is the company right now? How many people?
5 full-time and another 5 or 6 contracts. So around 10.
Okay. And how many customers do we have right now?
We have like 101 authors, and that doesn't count like our first year because now we have a reoccurring revenue model. So we have some clients we're going back to sell a new product we have. But right now it's 100, and we 2, 3, 4x that this year to reach those financial markers I mentioned.
All right. Now that we have context, let's talk about the platform itself. You mentioned the problem you're solving, right? So this is like, I'm guessing, a busy entrepreneur, busy founder, maybe busy doctor or a lawyer, and then they're trying to get their message out, right? And they want to write a book, but maybe they don't have time. They're intimidated by the process. Am I capturing your ideal customer properly?
Yes, that would be one of our target personas. Correct.
What would be a different type of avatar?
Another one would be someone actively publishing on Substack or their own newsletter, but has yet to create a book. And we look at those two avatars. Own channel newsletter person just is intimidated or doesn't have the time to do the book and vice versa. Book people find it very difficult to jump over to Substack. We're opening that aperture and saying, whatever feels comfortable, we're a home for you to do both. So the definition of a modern author is wider.
Okay. So walk me through the process. So say I am a lawyer, right? And I'm like an expert in my niche, like say injury lawyer, right? I'm an expert in my niche. I do blogs, I do Substack every now and then when I get time. So how is chapters helping me get to market and become an author and become even a bigger authority in my space?
So that's a perfect client for us. Number one, we can grab or collect their corpus of work that exists. You said they already blog, they are already putting themselves out there. That is IP that probably 99% of the world has never read, maybe 1%, but that's still very valuable. So we would grab that and we're putting it into what we call our living library. It's their own large language model, doesn't know the rest of the world. It's their IP, and we're just filling that bucket, so to speak. And if their book is maybe not evergreen, maybe it's something very specific to that lawyer's niche, and things are moving quick, then we are also interviewing. They can self-interview, or we have editors that we can interview. They don't have to write a word. They can just speak it. And so we have a system. So we've removed all that ghostwriter in 6 months, 12 months, $100,000 for a ghostwriter. We can just grab existing corpus of work, interview to fill any gaps. And obviously I'm simplifying it a little bit, but there's an onboarding to be able to make sure we're pointing the ship in the right direction.
Right. So if the person does not have, if the person does not blog, right? Does that make your job difficult?
No, it actually makes it easier because we're starting with a clean canvas, so to speak. So we really get to, just like any ghostwriter or anyone starting to write a book, who do you want to write about? Who's it for? So we're starting that process, and we have developed, amazing questions. We spent 1,000 hours or more training our system to really add contextually relevant questions. And by the way, a human editor can and is often involved in this process. When they're doing that, the person that has that large inventory of blogs, white papers, et cetera, sometimes the context could be very different. Still writing a book's a bit of a journey, and maybe when they really reflect about what they said back in January on a podcast, even though we have those transcripts, maybe they've changed.
Here's one question I was thinking. You mentioned the word living library. Can you explain what that means?
Yes. So to get a bit cerebral here, let's say you are writing a book, want to write a book, and you have, a half manuscript written. And for hundreds of years, you would flush out that manuscript, and hopefully you're a good storyteller and it has a nice narrative arc. But that's situational to a book, to this hundreds-of-year-old business model. A living library reflects, really, because we have technology now, and specifically chapters, how we think. Our thoughts evolve. And so we look at manuscript as just the beginning. So you can keep filling that library. You can question your own assumptions. You can take a book and turn it into another book based on chapter 8 and go deeper. You can do a lot with that corpus of work, so to speak, or corpus of IP. So living library is more about the description of what it actually is, what that vault is. So it's
right.
It's sometimes we're nonlinear. So this vault kind of just takes whatever IP, whatever wisdom and expertise you have in perpetuity.
Right. So how is it different than me like writing on a Word document and storing it on my Dropbox locally?
Well, anyone that writes a book now, when it's finished, it turns into it's a Word doc or Google doc. or a PDF and then it's printed or there's an ebook or audiobook, it's not very smart. It's a one and done business for publishing. And for chapters, that's not how we look at it. That book can be repurposed, can evolve, can change. You can split it off into multiple books or blogs, white papers, as I mentioned before. So we've trained the model to have tremendous editorial rigor, to make sure it's 100% authentic to your voice, but to live and breathe, so to speak. So while yours is sitting over in some file, why not have a platform like Chapters where someone can come in and engage it and get it in Spanish, or maybe they just want to read chapter 3, or they have a question for you or a question for the book. So it makes the IP more dynamic than just your example of sitting in a file.
Right. So essentially, it's helping me repurpose what I've already written into, say, a blog post or a LinkedIn post or an idea for my next YouTube video, stuff like that.
Correct. And, conceivably, you could take your book manuscript and throw it into a, large language model now, but it hasn't been trained as ours has specific to you. It also doesn't have some of our features that ask you to, hey, check this out or question your assumptions. Is this still true? So we're not trying to create something where it just totally, what's called atomization, and just sends out nebulous blogs. We really want to make sure that the author feels great about their IP. So yes, absolutely. It's an efficiency play. You're being able to do much more with your book and your IP than you've ever had before.
Right. So it's essentially like a smarter, more personalized, like ChatGPT, right?
Correct. And then, that the big difference also, there's many of them, but another one is we are time stamping that content. We're looking for the provenance, the chain of custody of that, the paper trail of where that thought came from in real time. So as you're talking or as we're capturing it, we're stamping it. And if it is your original IP, then we want to make sure that long-term, the large language models come along and scrape it, that you're rewarded for it, or that you're getting credit even beyond the large language model. So if you've created some process and you're an oncologist or a therapist and you have some process that's unique, of course, there's copyright laws, et cetera, but we're also trying to double down on that, triple down on that with time stamping it and some other tools we have to give you as much ownership and let the world know that, hey, this is my IP.
Right.
So that's where we, maybe the large language models will do it. I think it goes against what they're doing right now. Right now, they're just scraping, stealing, borrowing, whatever.
Right. But what happens in a scenario where the author themselves is using AI, like existing AI tools, to create their own content? So essentially, they're using borrowed knowledge and borrowed IP, which already exists on the internet. And then they're kind of creating like a merge with their own thoughts. How do you solve that problem?
I think I don't think, I'll answer that question. I'll tell you how we're handling it. I don't think solve it because I think the latest number is 90% of all content now, digital content, is synthesized. So it has some AI in it. So that train is left, but it doesn't mean that there's not going to be, as long as mothers are giving birth to babies and those babies have brains and they have original thoughts, doesn't mean that in perpetuity there's going to be new thinking and new thoughts. So how we handle it specifically is our system. If we cannot find a digital footprint of what is said, then we are marking it for the author that this is their IP. It doesn't mean there's a brick wall around it. It's just saying, hey, this is, you can attribute this back to me, just like you would attribute any famous quote or anything you would do, attribution in a book. As far as that synthetic content, we're just noting it as such. It's just a question mark. So it doesn't mean it's not valuable. Doesn't even mean that that person didn't even come up with it. It's just there's a question mark on it, and that's doesn't seem to be an issue. But that whether it's 1%, a half a percent, whatever percent of original content that's going to be out there in the future, we're doing our best job to give that author something that they can call their own and monetize it
Right.
for themselves. And by the way, if someone's trying to game the system and it's someone's not really a thinker or passionate or really has that expertise, the marketplace will, say, hey, you're kind of smart, somewhat interesting, or whatever. Then that's a marketplace decision. We're just doing our best to credit someone where credit's due.
What if they have their own, say you have a competing product that's owned by another company, and say they call themselves whatever. You have chapters.io, they have book.io, and then they have their own living library, and then they're maintaining their own timestamp content. And clearly there's like a wall between your library and their library, right? So you can't read what they're doing and they can't read what you're doing. So in that case, like I'm just thinking of like corner case scenarios. Like how would you know if the thought that the author came up with is original or not if you can't really access other living libraries?
Well, how we're looking at that is, I think long term, let's take a step back from that. Any company that's a startup right now in any vertical, I prescribe to this, doesn't mean it's gospel. It's a land grab right now. So we're publishing. So we're hyper focused in that space. There's people in legal, ad tech, fintech, and so I think conventional wisdom is this next 6 to 20 months is really important for companies like ours. We've got to establish our distribution channels. And with that, we'll become we'll grab more stature, more credibility. And we want every publisher to have all their authors use chapters. Again, we're trying to be the good guy here. To answer your question, then if that happens, then we'll probably tag it accordingly or not tag it, or that company wins and we don't win. So I think we'll see. That's a perceived issue, not an actual issue for us right now. I think our judo move around that is we're very hyper vertically focused in some industries right now, including academia. So maybe we'll find our home in one of these areas. It's a big world. There's trillions of words. It's right now we're trying to help authors remove the stress, protect their IP, monetize their IP, and we'll see where everything goes.
Right. Well, so I wanted to clarify. So the intention of the question was not that, someone will come in and outcompete you. The intention of the question was, if there are multiple competing private living libraries, then you essentially get blocked off and you can't prove that the content is original or not because you can't see other living libraries, right? So the only reason you can right now with some certainty claim that it's original IP is because you have access to pretty much the whole public domain, and then you can run spiders and crawlers to confirm whether this thought is original or not, right? But if we have like multiple private libraries, you lose that privilege of going to the public domain because now everything is private. So how are you going to prove whether it's a thought, whether it's an original thought or not?
Well, I think the threshold is what is original thought or not. So I'm going to hopefully answer this. I totally understand your question, but let's say we have 100 oncologists in chapters in our living library, and they all have millions of words of breast cancer or lung cancer, and they're experts. And someone in the States here goes to WebMD and they go to Google, but they'll come to Chapters and they have lung cancer and they want to get some sage advice on what they should do. And the large language models, again, I'm making this up on the spot, we believe that they will see our little place in the world as worthy of paying those oncologists their IP. And so are there other, oncologists somewhere? Is there other things out there? Maybe so. But we're trying to say, hey, you, especially, and I'm bouncing around here, but I want to say this. Think of all the layoffs, not to be glass half empty right now, but let's say these layoffs keep happening. Well, a lot of these layoffs, tens of thousands of people, are knowledge workers who have advanced degrees, who've probably been working 10, 20, 30 years. They might have only themselves to earn a living. Maybe they can never go back to Meta, wherever they came from before. Those salaries are over. No more $400,000 salaries. We want to be a home for them. So I understand what you're saying. If that happens, I guess we got to give it more thought. Maybe that's a problem we got to solve here. But we're trying to think, how do you, protect it from the large language models, get paid for the training or whatever deals, and we build up this giant corpus, and we're getting calls from Sam Altman every day. That is one area that we hope happens. But there's also just a more practical, hey, Chapters has stature. We know it's, when people come to it, it's not like LinkedIn and other places, which is a popularity contest, or, this is for thinkers and thought leaders and experts. And I think we might create our own bubble, to be blunt. It might be our own bubble. It might be a big bubble. But if other people do it, then they do it.
Yeah. So you mentioned you have like 100 or so authors, clients right now. Are they subscribed to this platform, the Living Library platform, or are they clients where you just help them get to market with a book?
Yeah, great question. So we started out in late 2024 with this scraping with their permission and these interviews, and we were able to, we created these wonderful manuscripts. Then we saw, we have a manuscript with 60,000 words, but we actually have 400,000 words of their wisdom. So to answer your question, we started collecting those, and we started creating these living libraries. And think of it as a Substack or LinkedIn homepage, very simple UI, UX. And the front end, which I'll get to in a second, we're about to make that switch or turn the switch on, is consumer facing. You can ask questions, you can engage with that person, that expert, and that IP. On the back end, the author is able to turn chapter 8 of their book into a documentary that can do a lot. So it's got a front end and back end. So where we are, we're still very early stage, beta testing, stealth, MVP, all those terms. In April, we're flipping the switch. We'll actually have several hundred people on the platform, the Living Library. And where we're getting the other ones is some of the publishers, some other authors, existing authors are putting their corpus of work into a library. So our 100 authors goes to 200 authors, and then I'm talking daily, hourly with publishers all over the world to 10x, 100x the network, so to speak. So yes, all of our authors automatically get it. But someday we hope we get the list where every Substack author would have at least a free account with their name on it, and we'll be ready to charge them for us to download and hold all of the corpus of their work. So although we do what's called that atomization and turn books into all types of stuff, the real magic, I think, is just the boring core deliverable, and that's a vault, to protect it and to hold it. So it's a library. It's a library, but it's unlike the library. I don't know if you said Basecamp or whatever example you had before, other than it just sitting like in a Google folder. This is sitting, living, breathing for you to add and subtract from.
Right. So this is more of a strategic direction question. So you prove the model that chapters platform, or like the chapters service, would you classify that as a service? So what you did for those 100 authors and you brought them to market and they are happy with their books, would you consider that as a service? And now you're kind of like transitioning to this living library model, or are you thinking of as two lines of businesses and you continue to do both?
So I'm going to ask you, because we had a nice conversation. This is a back and forth. So that's an amazing question. So I'll ask you. So we have a bond trader, financial, really a guru, like he's really a savant. He came to us with 300,000 words of notes and processes. Really, really smart. We were able to synthesize within our process with an editor to create a manuscript that was much more manageable. In fact, creating several. And so there was very much a human involved. Anyone would be right to say that that was a service offering. However, we now have a corpus of his wisdom and IP that was 300,000 words, is now like 600,000 words within our living library. So we have that. And now we're going to have the living library, sorry, lost my words there, that people can interact with it. But before that, it was just the manuscript and 600,000 words. That's worth a lot to him, and it's worth a lot, I think, to the world. That's beyond just a book. What do you call that? Do you call that a service? Do you call that B2B? Do you call that B2C? And what if we did it 1 million times over? So whenever we are talking to a snarky VC, I'd said, well, it's a lot of things. It doesn't defy some conventional terms.
Right. So when these potential customers are reaching out to you, they have a big problem, right? They have this IP, they have this intelligence, they have this experience that they want to convert to a book, right? And then you are coming in, you're like, well, I'm experienced in this. I've been doing this for a long time. I have these trained editors who can help you bring it all together, edit it, do the cover for you, write the book for you, all the ghostwriting services, and then you sign off on it and we take you to market and you become an authority in your niche, right? So that's a service.
Just everything's right, but no ghostwriting. It's their words.
No ghostwriting. So how if they're not a traditional writer, how do you, are you coaching them? All right, this is how you want to think of chapter 1. This is how you want to think of chapter 2.
So that was 1,000 hours of training. So the narrative arc and the process of creating a self-help book, a biography, a memoir, a how-to book, a business book, these have been well-oiled processes or well-oiled frameworks or blueprints. So we trained our model to, when it intakes, based on some rules we give it for each author, and with the help of an award-winning, best-selling developmental editor, they help point that author's manuscript in the right direction. And it can even change as they go through 10 or 12 weeks of talking and sharing. But that's all behind the scenes. Because we spent that 1,000 hours, the technology is taking that original content, it's putting to the side anything that is not applicable, that maybe the person's repeating themselves, maybe they're talking first person, second person. So it's just like a transcription, just 100x more smarter and with a purpose. So it's just like Legos, moving the content around. And that's where the editor is so important, because sometimes we need to get them to be vulnerable, or maybe they've changed their mind, or they need to question assumptions. So that's how they're getting that manuscript into one place. So if I'm at a cocktail party, I'm not talking about living library and AI and IP. I'm saying we're a modern publisher. We're a really smart publisher. And the publisher that
Mm.
we're going to, the hybrid, is 40, 50, $80,000. And the traditional publisher, unless you're Elon Musk, they don't really want to talk to you on the nonfiction space. So, and by the way, the world has long moved away on how we share thought leadership. So chapters is first and foremost this library, this vault that we're organizing it. And then the book, which is very important. If I'm at the cocktail party, that person, they want a book. So I'm not trying to make their life confusing, but the book is just the beginning. They can do a lot more with that.
Yeah. So
So we're at the cocktail party. I'm just a publisher. That's for sure.
right. No, which I think is a smart move, because if you start going into living library, you'll have to first explain what it is, and by the time you explain it, you kind of like lost the dream for that person, because it's not about what you're building. It's about how you can help them achieve their goals, right? So
Yeah.
I totally agree the way you're approaching this. What I feel is a little bit shaky is, like, as I brought it up earlier, is the concept of original IP, because it kind of like defeats the purpose. The fact that you have to be original, you need access to the whole world, and vice versa. So that, I'm
Can you
sure you
rephrase that last part?
right. So the original IP, where you mentioned the one of the benefits of being part of this living library is where you can kind of like I understand the time stamping aspect of it. It's just that the original IP is, you can't prove without a shadow of the doubt that it's original, right?
Okay, that's a great point. I don't want to say no, but I agree. Right now, I'd say yes, and probably so long term. However, I think now we have to kind of slice the nuance or the psychology a little bit. For the thought leader, it's although they have a lot of needs and they have ego and so forth, or the expert, it's really monetization. That would probably be the first thing. I want to get paid. I need to earn a living, feed my family. So
Mm.
number two, and let's just stick there. On the other side, the visitor, and let's not even talk about the large language models paying them for that. I'm just talking about me. If I'm going to get parenting advice, or I have cancer and I want to go, I just want to look at chapters as a safe place. As I am so, it's 2035. Everything is, my mind's blowing. Is it real? Not real? I just feel like this place is more real than it's not real. That's how I interpret it. So we're not trying to be anyone's savior, but we're saying that, and it's a big bet, because maybe, someone in high school now won't care if Tom Cruise or anyone's a real actor or not. Maybe they won't care. If that's the case, then they don't care. But maybe we think people will care, especially when it comes to health and fitness and finance. And that's why we're trying to build this platform to where it has stature. And there's a lot of ways to give it stature. And one of the ways is to not say it's 100% anything. But another way to make it have stature is to not make it like Facebook as well. So it's almost boring in some ways.
Well,
yeah.
what about Wikipedia? Like, Wikipedia is public, and yet pretty much everyone I know trusts the information in there. And then my understanding is they have like a lot of humans do the verifications, and there's like a community element to it, right? So
That's
why?
a great example. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah. So why, like, that's a counter example of why keep it private? Why not keep it public like Wikipedia?
Well, maybe we'll get there. Let's hit pause here for a second. This isn't, I've had some nice home runs and I've had some punches in the face in life, like any entrepreneur. And I'll tell you, where I am now is 100% to be able to evolve and pivot and question assumptions. So I'm almost bulletproof, just because I've conditioned myself to not be relevant to what the situation is. And if the situation kind of where what you're alluding to, I'll be first to do that. It's just too early. This is an atom bomb just got dropped, in November of 2022 by OpenAI. Not that AI wasn't around before, but as far as in the public consciousness. And so there's just a lot of it's a black box of definition. And I'll just say, I'll say this. Let me put it this way: Wikipedia is a great example. Wikipedia is not 100% factual. I know sometimes I hear people really harp on that, but it's pretty darn close. And by the way, I'm not an idiot, neither are you. I go into it knowing that. I go into it I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for okay, if I want to go deeper, I'm going to double check this. So I think that's a great tone and approach. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's where we're headed. Now, as far as participation in the public, maybe so. I think it would be great. But I've learned to be flexible like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm just thinking, whenever I think of a business model, I like to think of how can we break it, right? I'm sure as an entrepreneur, you always think of all the positive sides, right? But in a strategy type session, I have to take the opposite position. Otherwise, we're just you know, it's not a strategy session. It's just we're just saying the same things. So I try to add value by taking the opposite position and try to poke holes at your arguments and your the model, and whether it can be tested, it can stand the test of time, right? So those are the things that are coming to my head. Because ideally, if I am running your business, right, I would like go the completely opposite direction. I would triple down on what's already working. So clearly, you proved, just looking at the numbers, you proved that you have the ability to bring in 100 authors, and you have the ability to help them, curate this beautiful masterpiece of a book, right? With award-winning editors and help of AI, right? You're already
And
doing
more
that.
authentic than a ghostwriter, right? It's real, it's them, which
Right,
makes me
exactly.
feel really proud. Yeah.
It's their voice. Yeah. So why not go all in on that and use this living library as an upsell? Like, oh, we published your first book, let's think about your second book, or let's talk about a workbook that goes along with it, upsell offers, what else can we publish, or let me take over, what would be the next thing. Oh, let me help you market this book, let me help you make it a bestseller, the adjacent offers that you can make uh, on the back of your core offer. That's how I would think, because I feel like you're going in this LLM living library thing, which is a good upsell. I just don't feel that it's it's like a model that can survive forever, right? For example, this monetized thing is up in the air. We don't know for sure it's going to happen or not, right? And then you'll have to kind of backpedal the positioning that you're taking now, right? And it's creating a lot of uncertainty in my head. But I do like the fact that it's a living library where you can contribute to, and it will. But why is it important? Because it can help you generate ideas. It can help you generate content for your social media, and everyone knows how important social media is. So you don't have to hire an additional person. You have this AI working for you, and you can just have your assistant just publish it on a regular cadence, or maybe Chapters platform has an automated capability that can publish on your behalf, something like that, which is making their life easier, and it's nicely complementing the massive value that you've already provided in terms of creating this masterpiece of a book. So that's how I would think of, because I know what you're trying to do. Just from a business perspective, you have one-time lumpy revenue, and you're trying to think of a monthly recurring revenue. So you have this lumpy revenue that's coming in addition to a stable monthly MRR, right? So you can make, obviously, that makes the revenue curve smoother. It allows you to forecast. It allows you to bring more people because you have to pay them monthly or biweekly, right? So am I making sense?
Yeah, I mean, you've said a lot that's just, spot on, and then a few, and then comments that I would have. So yes, let me just jump in there. So you are right that with any company, not just mine, that you have to deliver just a wonderful experience, right? I'm just
Yeah.
general. So fortunately, we've done that, and really, it is great. It is, you're like, oh wow, this really works, and we've had a lot of that feeling. However, we're also saddled with the legacy of traditional publishing and hybrid publishing. Legacy is very artisanal and very intimidating. And really, it's meant for nonfiction and shelf space on fiction for fiction, nonfiction shelf space for brick and mortars getting very small. And so somehow we're clumped in with, the classics of fiction, and it's really a different business model. And so, no matter how hard we work to do manuscripts, it's still a service business, and we are fighting the way people perceive publishing, and we have nothing to do with that industry. I parachuted into this industry a couple of years ago. I have deep editorial experience, but it's really inconsequential to me what they do now. It's a distribution business for the traditional companies, and they have some wise editors that pick and choose the books, but it's not a growing industry. And then on the hybrid, those are sales organizations. They're like B-rated ad agencies, to be blunt. They're not bad people. They're not dumb, but it's just, that's the business model. We are capturing IP, and to be able to get authors, like you're saying, every author is different, and some want to be an alpha and want to be on a speaking stage. Some want to be, to be a consultant, but they all need handholding. And we didn't really want to be in the handholding business. We believe in offering a layer of human involvement editorially, but it's difficult to scale. So it wasn't like, oh, we need MRR. I funded the company. We could grow it and be a nice $10 million company, but I really I'm very passionate that we had the Genome Project in the 90s, but we have nothing for all this wisdom. So that's why I'm flexible. That's why I used to own a UX lab. And so I'm not a UX I hired these people, but I'm a wannabe, and I always just want to know, want to really see what the user experience is. And sometimes you have to be like Steve Jobs and you create something that they're not thinking about. But right now, I'm noticing a lot of people that are unable to, share their wisdom, and maybe millions will be unemployed, and we want to be able to capture that for them. And the offshoot is a vault, a living library. So it's maybe less intentional than you articulated, but I also want to repeat that I just don't want to be in the ad agency business, which is basically what a publishing or hybrid publisher is. It's a lot of handholding. A book cover design, sorry to go on about this, but a book cover design could take 20 emails in 3 weeks. And that's just if I was the author, I'd want to have a lot of options and go through that. But if I sell 2,000, Seth Godin, I've never purchased any of his books, or Simon Sinek, but I've read their content constantly. So I feel like if I look at it like a publisher, I'm just kind of old school, I guess, the old world, where, I'm trying to open that aperture of how people actually consume content, not trying to fix. I'll let the publishing people deal with that. They have to fix their industry. I'm trying to open that aperture to how people consume content. So it's a long way to go, but I feel more kindred spirit to Wikipedia than I do the publishing industry. And I have a couple of hard lessons, or not hard lessons. I'm also very aware of what like TED Talks did to their brand, kind of watered it down a bit. And I look at what LinkedIn has done. And so we don't want to be that, where there's Wikipedia is a great example. And then it's a great example. It's like I go there to get information, and that's what I just want to help monetize. That's a big difference. I want to help those people make money.
Yeah, but Wikipedia is also free, right? So
Yeah.
that's the other challenge. Because you're essentially making a bet, right? It is a bet that that it will monetize, because it's possible that it won't, right?
Yeah, and it's possible that society will really not value authenticity as much as I think.
Right.
Well, and there's really smart people, a couple of people I really follow. They flat out don't that they don't think that. They think
Yeah.
opposite of that. People will not care.
Yeah. So you're making a bet, and from a business perspective, I like to think of like, how can we make sure we don't kill the company, right? So, and that's the reason why I, like, when I said, well, how I would run it would be, I mean, you mentioned clearly that you don't want to be in a service business. You don't want to be in a hand holding business.
Well, I am going to talk out of both sides of my mouth in a second. We are 100% in the foreseeable future, and probably will, but that would be a different entity. That's just not scalable. And I love growing companies, so I've grown companies like that. So just personally speaking, it's not as intellectual. It's not a challenge.
Well, I would like to push back.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, you could still, like, I mean, we can like find cheaper labor, like we can have them train in house, maybe people in the Philippines or in Bangladesh or India, like, and we could scale that way. Like, it's not scalable, right? It's just harder.
Yeah, it's harder. And let's just take a step back. And it's not like I disagree with anything you're saying. I think it for a lot of people it'd be the right choice personally, but I'm going to reuse what I've been saying previously. It's the aperture, the way people consume media. I don't want to be just locked in on the I don't want to be locked in on the book, or I don't want to be just locked in on helping people do Substack. I want to have a platform that the creator of the IP can, if it was a musician, they can give out samples, they can give out albums, they can give out songs, they can go live, whatever, but they own the IP, and they're going to earn money. They're going to earn money in ways that they want to earn. Contextual, maybe they don't want to travel, maybe they don't want to do albums, whatever. So that's what we're doing, is giving them options.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with that. I do think, I think that should be the primary benefit. That's how the living library should be positioned, because I feel like right now you're positioning it around the monetization angle, which may or may not happen. And you also mentioned original IP, which I was like, well, that's something I disagree with, because it's hard to prove. It's not public. What if other people come up with their own private libraries? Then it'll be impossible to prove, right? So
let me throw another revenue stream. So let's say we have millions of people on the platform. There's other ways to monetize. So if I have all those oncologists, well, maybe pharmaceutical companies want access to those people. So there's other ways to monetize. And I'm going to make a left turn here, but somewhat related. Also, the other reason why I don't want to, I'm very careful about the service business. I don't say this in a disrespectful way, is a lot of authors, writers, pontificators are lazy. They're not, how hard it is to do this podcast. I know you have StreamYard and you have other partners, but it's work, and your brand and showing up and all those things. A lot of people, they've been building widgets their whole life. They want to be a thought leader, and then they do it for a year. So I don't want anything with a KPI. It's still them. They still have to, we're very libertarians here. The market will tell them if that wisdom is worth something or not. I just want to, for those that want to capture it and be able to monetize it beyond just a traditional book, or pay a hybrid publishing company, or go chase $7 a week subscriptions on Substack, maybe there's something else. And I think that's chapters. But I agree that don't run. Money's money. Don't run away from this revenue right now and keep doing it. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted to be clear that I agree, but I still want the scale. I still think it's
Yeah.
valuable. But I
But
agree.
but the other thing about scaling is like uh, I think I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Like the reason you don't want to be in the service business is you're like saying, well, it's much harder to scale, but it's not like the other path is easier either. Like there are some unknown problems that you're not even thinking about. They're like legal issues and other AI disruptions, maybe a competing product, right? And it's very hard to disrupt a service business that's already working with existing clients, because then you can focus on the LTV, lifetime value of customers, and you have repeat customers, you have a brand, you have a moat around your brand and everything there, right? So there are pros and cons to both ways. So I feel like the safest way would be to not lose focus on what's already working, and then add the living library as an upsell to existing customers who want to further monetize, but not the way you're thinking of, like in terms of like, oh, chat gpt will pay me 50 cents every time they scan the living library, but more like, well, we have all this IP in one place. Let's use this to create, as you said, Substack subscriptions, and maybe write a second book, or maybe expand into like a paid YouTube channel. You know how on YouTube you can have like a paid subscribers for like deep dive content, or have like courses, digital courses built automatically using AI because you have all this data. So stuff like that, we know for sure the technology and AI already exists and it can do it right now, as opposed to hoping that the crawling monetization will be a thing in the future.
Well, I mean, I said it on the outset. I totally agree. We're not betting the ship on that Claude's going to come and pay or pay for the training. It's part of our product roadmap. It has to be, right? It's a corpus of work. Someone spent time writing it, and they're going to need more work. They're going to need more content. We know that, in order to get smarter, all the large language models. How that pans out, it's kind of a, sorry to call it, shit show right now, what's going on with the publishers and one-off deals. So we have it out there as something just to be responsible. But again, I go back to your great analogy too. One is, I totally agree with what we're doing. We're continuing doing it and kind of iterate, but I think we can still be the Wikipedia, where there's value there of being a trusted network, so to speak. And
Right.
just real quick, so we give them the living library. The network is, if you think about it, it's actually a whole nother business, right? It's connecting all the living libraries together. So these things are on a product roadmap, and just like we spent 2 years testing the manuscript, we're testing that. So we're totally testing. I just the only stiff arm I'll give, and I totally understand, I think you're really wise to say it, is, to over-index this business, because, I feel like I'm kind of the entrepreneur that, okay, let's Thelma and Louise this, let's go. And it doesn't work, doesn't work, but we're going to, I'm the one that used to own the UX lab. So I'm constantly getting feedback, and much of what we've talked about today is theory. There's no doubt. So, but I do think there are a couple of things we know is distribution. What if I get really cozy and really make relationships with the publishers who have all the backlist and have all these books that are sitting there dormant? I want them to be a customer, conceivably. So academia, all these professors that have, IP in between writing books and textbooks. So there's a lot there. There's a little bit of time, we got to keep the train moving here. But I think I think what you said about the manuscript, that just concerns me about being just a little too cottagey, artesian, and and plus I've done it, so that's a big thing. I've
Yeah.
done service business like that, but
How are you thinking about solving the market awareness problem, right? Because I'm guessing if you have to sell this vision, a lot of authors and a lot of potential authors need to know about this product. How are you solving that?
I mean that's a good one to solve. Our main focus right now is vertical focus, is to find and we have several, and to really enrich ourselves within those circles of finance, certain verticals of healthcare, life science, bioscience, academia we're talking to. So that is purely a guess that would be the right strategy. I mean, that's a big one. So if we, momentum stirs more momentum. And so we have in the academic space, we have 4 or 5 publishers that I'm talking to. So once we're finished testing right now, we're almost 100, 200 back titles and authors from one of those publishers immediately get in there. So at some point, there's critical mass, 200, 2,000 authors. Driving traffic to that will be another focus of ours, kind of game the system, get some, put some gas in the engine to get people. And then if it turns into kind of this Wikipedia, I'd have to go back and see how Wikipedia started. There's also, are you familiar? Is that IMDb,
IMDb, yeah.
from Hollywood? There's Amazon bought it, so it's not a great analogy anymore, but it's a great story. Just one movie fanatic started it, and there's a little bit of us in that too. So it's research, Wikipedia like. So that's how we're looking to get momentum. And so
Mhm.
I know I bashed the publishers a little bit, but I'm really trying to make friends with them too because of the corpus of work that they have.
Yeah.
And then another one is, let's take Substack. I think they have 5 million people on there. I don't know what percentage are active, but I think it's 5 million in 5 years, something like that, 3 million in 5 years. We get 10% of those people, and we're the vault for that. And maybe a lot of people want to write a book. We'll be ready for that.
Yeah. So right now you mentioned you have a team of 5 full-time employees, 5 contractors. How are they, like, do you have like one person dedicated to doing these outreaches to existing authors and try to educate them and bring them on board? Like, how are you thinking about that in terms of like resource allocation?
So it takes a lot of relationship building. It's not, again, why a reoccurring revenue if you do get the golden ticket and you get something that's a rocket ship, that the network gets big, it kind of recruits itself, so to speak. Referrals, that's the goal. But what do we do between now and then? I have someone helping me. It's myself and one other, and we just build relationships. All those hundreds of authors, many hundred that have come in that we've talked to, came through referrals. So we have a referral with publishers. So our sales pitch was simple. If you are referring out a ghostwriter, will you please also refer us out? And I think we win 46, 47% of those conversations. Almost half will go with us instead of a ghostwriter. And then, so that's how we do that. Our tech team, I'll just go and tell you a little bit more. So then we have an editorial team, mostly 1099. I have a big editorial background, so we try to get it's how do I say this right? It's a craft in writing, and so these, not like they don't want to be millionaires, but they're really appreciative to work because the publishing companies are not as many jobs, newspapers, magazines. So there's these wonderful people that work with us I was able to get the best of the best. So I have that. And then from a tech team, I've had I've had a couple of tech companies before, back early 2000s, and it's such a different makeup now with AI. We have business analysts. We just bought just hired a business analyst to really do a lot of user engagement testing, survey. So it's just a kind of a different makeup as far as the product and engineering side. So we need more business analysts than we need developers.
Right. Okay. So the goal is to keep both lines going, right? And hopefully that is the end goal to like shut down the hand holding services and move 100% to the living library, or is the goal to like keep both of them running at the same time?
I would like to 100%. I can't even imagine shutting down the other. I mean, you don't need to. It could just be its own company. It goes, as you know, with running a business, processes are different. And
Right.
so you just have to just be, that debate's been going on for a while. I remember a really smart person at Meta that, told me years ago, he said, I know it's all DIY and self sign up and all this, but somewhere along the line we went just too far. People need people, so I'd like having that more artisan business, service business for sure. But again, we want to get 1 million thought leaders on our platform, so we want to have both. But I'm a tester, so we're, it's not like we're frenetic, but this is a frenetic time. So we're trying to be, how do we not be where LinkedIn is right now? Like I said, LinkedIn's still great in a lot of ways, but it's kind of lost its luster as far as credibility and the amount of content that's coming. Forget that there's always been crappy content. Slop. I mean, there's been slop before AI, but now it just seems like not a lot of engagement on anyone's post, and
Yeah.
that's devalued the brand. So I'm also a branding background. So when you have offered these ideas or pushed back, you're 100% right. But I'm also, the brand in of itself is also important. What signal are we throwing out there? And I really want to be geeky and not geeky, but a place of trust more than I want
Yeah.
to place, more than thumbs up and star ratings.
Right. Well, LinkedIn wants to monetize now, right? They want to make money, so they're not giving a lot of organic reach, right? That's what's happening.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And then but people still, you and I might know that, but there's still a lot of people that aren't quite, they're busy doing their other jobs. So I don't know what I would do to solve for that. I mean,
yeah,
they're smart people, so I'm certain that they'll solve for it. But I just know for us that there's a credibility that if I don't have credibility from the get go, then nothing will work. So it's very important that, and again, that's one of your first questions was about how do you know it's real? Well, I think we'll help our credibility by not overstating what is real and authentic.
yeah. I do. I mean, I do think that timestamping is a good feature, because irrespective of whether, because then you don't care about whether it's original or not. Well, you're just providing them with artifacts, with like proof that if you think it's original, you have this artifact that you can go and take to the market and prove yourself, if that's what you want to do, right? But I think just not making the claim that chapters will 100% guarantee that the thought that you came up with in 2026 at this time was original. I think that's where I was like pushing back a little bit.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. I do not. I will.
yeah,
I don't think I said, but if I even come close to saying it, it's almost mind blowing if that's even. I don't even think that's in the realm of possibility. We say that with confidence because it's true, but that's kind of crazy that we would have
yeah,
gone back 7 years ago. You and I wouldn't have said it. We go, sure, you just attribution and citations, and that's what I said. No
yeah,
question. It's not
yeah,
that.
yeah. Dan, this has been great. Thanks so much for spending time with us today. If anyone is watching this and they want to learn more about the product, maybe they want to learn more about you, hang out with you, talk to you, what's the best place for them to reach out?
Yeah, chapters.io, chapters.io. I am on the website there. My email is dan@chapters.io, and LinkedIn is Dan Curran. It comes up. So Yeah, I'd love to talk. I love talking about all this on building as much as like publishing and so forth. I also love just talking about building, fundraising. So I'd love to talk to anyone.
Dan, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.